Hey, Arman here. Welcome to the NSP Nutrition Show, where we cover training, nutrition, supplementation strategies, and a whole lot more. So stand by. Hey, and welcome to the NSP Nutrition Show. I'm Arman Eckelbarger.
Hey, I'm Frank Mills. Thanks again for watching or listening to the NSP Nutrition Show. We definitely appreciate it. We've got another great show for you today. Today, we're going to be talking about key ingredients to watch out for in protein powders. So, there's a lot of them out there. I know when I go
Uh, yeah,
into the either health food store or, other
grocery
supplementation
store.
stores, that are
Yeah.
out there, grocery store. Yeah, they're just so many of them now. It's ridiculous. So we'll be talking about that and also fan questions. We've got some more good ones this week. So let's get started. All right, Armin. So this is a really interesting subject, I thought. And when I saw the notes come over for the show today, I was really excited because you know, again, going into wherever you go to buy your protein powders, if you're not buying the NSP Nutrition milk and egg protein, hey, shame on you. But hey, there are so many out there that to navigate the waters in this is really, to me, would be very difficult as a novice or even an experienced person because there's so
Yeah.
many different options out there. Um, is this something that you saw in an article, or is this from what I just discussed, going out and going, holy smokes, look at all those?
Well, it's kind of a combination of both. I mean, yeah, I saw an article about it. I mean, the article was protein powders to stay away from right now
Hmm.
was the article. And I found it on Flipboard. And I thought, as I looked at it, it's like, people aren't aware of this. Probably something we need to bring up just so they know that. Because a lot of people think that, protein powders are all pretty much the same because they have whey in them. And, I get that. But at the same time, a lot of them have more than just whey in it, and there's
Hmm.
different components to that. And so these dietitians were advising, against some of these specific different protein powders based on what they saw with the ingredients and the added sugars, and obviously the carbs, and then some of the ingredients they just felt was kind of shady. So it was like, okay, so we'll see what other people think, but that was dietitians that were kind of analyzing protein powders.
So I guess this show, you could say that they're weighing their options on protein powder. I'm sorry, I had to do that. Okay, so Armin, what do you
Absolutely,
mean
yeah.
by yeah? All right, so what do you mean by shady ingredients? Just so everybody knows.
Well, I guess there was a study done. It was the 2018 Clean Label Project, which was an investigation that found some of the most well-known protein brands contained alarming levels of lead, arsenic, mercury, cadmium, and BPA's, bisphenol.
Hmm.
And since protein powders are consumed as a dietary supplement, and a lot of times ongoing, it's not considered a food, but people are doing this, and so the manufacturers, it's up to them on how they're going to do their practices, because they're not FDA regulated. So they're going to decide how they're going to label the products regarding that and safety. So not that the FDA is perfect at all or even that great, but at the same time, it's up to the manufacturer to decide how they're going to manufacture it. And so if you can get these kind of ingredients, if the manufacturing is in a facility, it's going to have this, the capacity to have these kind of things into the product. So how that happens is it's kind of hard to say. It's hard to say if it was imported in or if it's in the manufacturing facility itself. But they did find this stuff in a lot of the different protein powders, so it is a red flag. And that's why they decided to also bring this up.
Okay, well, if that's not a reason to monitor what protein powder you should choose, I don't know what would be. That's kind of scary. I mean, arsenic and
Well,
lead is not good. So I'm just curious, what were some of the brands they identified?
Okay, so one of them that you see in the grocery store is pretty popular was the Quest protein powder. And so what they don't like about that particular brand, which was the first one they highlighted, and I'm not going to list all of them. I'm just going to list some of the main ones that people are probably familiar with. What they put in their protein powder is cellulose and sucralose, and so they, you know, they're the way the dietitians view this is that they're both linked to certain health conditions, especially issues with the gut. So, and you'll notice, well, anyways, some people will notice, which I notice
Right.
when I would have certain whey products, it wouldn't be good in my stomach. You get upset stomach, or you get a little diarrhea, things like that. So that was one thing.
Okay.
And then they went on to say that consistent consumption of sucralose could potentially break up DNA cells based on these recent studies. Okay, and then also harm the gut microbiome because of these things being in there. So now that's going to be hotly debated because the companies that use sucralose are going to defend their position. So, but that was just their statements, and one of the reasons why they suggested against it. In addition, this particular product contains carrageenan, which is a thickening agent. And
Okay.
so some of the research is stating that could be detrimental to your health as well. So again, another hot debate situation, but you see carrageenan quite often in like different dairy products and other like puddings and stuff because it's a thickener. And so, and if it's, the point is, if it's questionable, maybe you don't want to be taking it. So that's what they were saying. And then a lot of the research has been done regarding, the impact of carrageenan on humans, with some studies that have revealed that it cause inflammation of the gut because of how carrageenan digests in your system. So
Hmm.
that's their viewpoints. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but that's what they were saying. So again, the point here is if it's not an all natural scenario, or it's going to cause any kind of issue, you might want to avoid that in your protein powder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what was another brand that they had mentioned?
Another one they brought up was a Optimum Nutritious Gold Standard 100% whey. So they're pretty proud of their product apparently, but it contains artificial sweetener known as Alsulfame K, better
Okay.
known as ACE-K. That's an easier
Okay.
way to say it because some of these names are just like ah.
Yeah.
Anyways, which this has been linked to different health conditions, and
Hmm.
what they're warning against is that it could have some impact on hormone levels, which that would not be good, and could be wouldn't be recommended for any female that was pregnant because sometimes females take protein powders to help supplement to get the protein to help the baby, so they recommend not that. And then they feel like it could lead to other risk of certain cancers. They didn't really specify, but the product also contains cellulose gum, and which is another food additive. And the cellulose gum may lead to negative alterations in your gut flora and the microbiome. So again, all these different additives that go into these products can definitely affect how your digestive system is going to work. And that's
Hmm.
one of the things that you need to kind of understand. I mean, it allows you to maintain taste and the texture and things like that and the thickness, but at the same time, if you're using it on a regular basis, it's going to start to affect your intestinal system, then probably not the right route to go.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. Well, that's two brands. Were there others on this list?
Yeah, so another one is probably fairly popular would be the Muscle Milk Genuine protein powder. Now, this isn't the one that you buy already pre-made in a container, but this is a dry powder that you would mix,
Okay.
which they didn't like yet because it contains carrageenan, and which again we talked about it can cause inflammation, bloating. They also feel like it would affect irritable bowel syndrome. So you know the other thing they didn't like is some of the ingredients listed you couldn't even pronounce, which I got to tell you for the Muscle Milk product, which I've looked at and I've tried,
Hmm.
that I cannot believe how many ingredients they put in it. I mean, it's just off the charts. I mean,
Hmm.
there's I think there's um, 20, like 25 different ingredients. And so you got is a maltode, olesaccharides, which is a double vegetable powder. They put that in there, calcium caseinate, non-dairy creamer, which has come from sunflower oil, which, these have seed oils, which aren't good. Sodium caseinate, which is
Hmm.
a milk derivative, mono and diglyceride tocopherols to protect flavor. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's quite a bit. And so when you
Wow.
see all that with any kind of product, I'm not sure why they do it the way they do, but it's a lot of stuff added just to get some simple protein.
Well,
So
what's funny is we talked about processed food last week. That sounds like processed protein powder to me. I
well,
mean,
that's kind of
right?
the point. And then they also
Yeah.
said that the brand has been known to contain lower quality protein. I'm not sure why they didn't really specify too much, but they're saying because of low quality protein, and maybe they're referring to the caseinate part of it, but
Hmm.
they feel like they don't contain all the essential amino acids like it should. So again, these are just different opinions from these people. But another thing that's kind of a challenge with this is it does contain 21 grams of carbs, so it's more of a meal replacement type product. So because you don't want a lot of carbs with protein
Right.
unless
Right.
you have a strategy behind it. You just want to get the protein in the system and have some fat with it to digest, or the protein has some you know digestion additives
Right.
to help,
Right.
like the NSP has the digestive additives for it. So that's just one of the things you keep in mind on that particular product. I've never been a big fan of it. And one other thing to understand, since we're on this topic, is when you buy a protein drink that's already in a liquid form, if it says it's a whey protein, that's misleading because you cannot put whey in a liquid form without having to what do you call it? Well, what they have to do with milk, they have to
Is it
process it.
homogenized or
Yeah,
processed?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be homogenized. It's got to go through
Gotcha.
that
Okay.
process. And so when you take it through that heating process, the whey gets damaged, so it's not even effective.
Ah.
So you don't want to buy your protein in a pre-liquid form if it's whey. So that's one thing to keep in mind, because the pasteurization is the word I'm looking for. The
Yeah.
pasteurization, the heating process will kill will damage the effectiveness of it. So you're not really getting what you think you're getting. So that's probably
Interesting.
going to be
Hmm.
that'll be a hot debate as well. But at the same time, that's what I've read.
Well, it's just like anything else, heat will break down. So yeah,
Yeah, it
I'm
does.
on. Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. Were there more?
Yeah, another one which is a popular name would be the Gatorade protein powder. Which
Ah, okay.
I'm not a real big fan of Gatorade. I think
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning they had the right agenda, but then when Coca-Cola took it over, you know they're going to do what they have to do to make it as profitable as possible and skinny up
Yep.
the product. So I'm not a fan of the Gatorade products, but
Right.
according to their website, what they stated is, it contains both carrageenan and sucralose. And so they're not a big fan of those because of what we just talked about before. Not only that, but the World Health Organization, like I mentioned earlier, they released the new guidelines in May of 2023, encouraging people not to use sucralose as a replacement for sugar because of its links to these to diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And I'm sure that's going to be highly debated. But at the same time, that's the World Health Organization. Should you take it up with them if you're going to argue that point?
Interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
And here I didn't know that Coca-Cola had taken over Gatorade. So that's
Yeah,
pretty interesting.
I'm pretty sure it's owned by Coca-Cola.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Getting limited on time, but are there more?
Yeah, another one that's fairly sensitive, fairly well, could be considered popular would be BSN Syntha 6 protein powder. This is like in a lot of the health food stores and then the you other you know specialty stores is where you see this product at. So
Yeah.
it contains the what they considered, they didn't like it because it contains the 1-2 punch of corn syrup and sucralose both,
Oh boy.
and plus there's 15 grams of carbs. So that's what they don't like about that, which I got to agree with on that too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then it includes the acesulfame that we talked about, potassium, which is another artificial sweetener. They're not big on that. So, while the FDA doesn't feel like aspartame is an issue, if it's taken in limited quantities, studies have shown that consuming, high amounts of it, and then who knows how high amount it needs to be, can lead to increased risk of cancer and then also metabolic syndrome, which also it can have effect on the brain function. So again, the question is, if these things are even questionable, period, do you want to be taking these on a regular basis? And that's the whole point that they're making. And I have to kind of agree on that, because if it's all natural, we know how that's going to work. The body usually has no problem with it. Now, there can be exceptions, but most of the time, it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. All right. So Arman, I am kind of curious here. How does the NSP 92% milk and egg protein compared to the, not all of them, but with the ones that you brought up, it's something that you and I both enjoy and like, and it works for us. But why don't you talk about that a little bit, just as a comparison?
Well, I don't want to brag too much since it's our show, but at the same time, it's in a class of itself, because you can't find milk and egg protein anywhere. I mean, that's one of the unique things about the NSP product. So, because people don't know how to formulate it the right way. And so, with the ingredients you have with this, you have egg white, okay, which is egg albumin. You've got caseinate, which is casein from the milk. And then you have some stevia, which is an all natural sweetener. And they use the REBA stevia sweetener, which is top shelf. And then you have papaya, which is a natural product. You have bromelain, which you get from pineapple. And then you have pepsin. So these are for the digestion part of the product, because you don't have fat in it. So this will help with the digestion part. And then you have some lecithin for a small amount of fiber. So, it's all natural products. So, you don't have these issues that we're seeing with these other potential products. So, and the reason it's called 92%, in case people don't understand, it's 90% because 8% of the product is designed to help with the digestive part of it. And that's what the bromelain, the papaya, and those are natural digestive type of fruits, right. Along with the lecithin has a little bit of effect of that, and the pepsin. So, if you don't have any fat to mix it with, it's going to help digest. Now, if you want to add some fat, then that's why we have, using half and half or heavy cream, or you could use MCT oil, and that'll give you some fat, which will also still help with the digestion. So you have the best of both worlds. If you don't have fat with it, you can still get the digestion from it, so it will absorb. And if you add fat in it, then it's going to absorb that much better. So that's one of the key things there. Plus, it's one net carb. Okay, and plus the FDA, the FDA, when it comes to labeling, you can't say 0 carb, but it's pretty small. So you have to have the minimum 1. So Correct. It is one net carb, but it's, again, there's a little carb in it. So,
okay.
So, and the other thing is, it does, the way it's put together, it's, egg can be very sticky. So people that buy 100% egg protein, the biggest problem you're going to have is it sticks to the side of the container. So you got to scrape all that off and try to get it to blend. And I bought egg protein for years, and that was one of the big problems I had, because it didn't have the right, because it's 100% egg, it's just sticky as hell, and they have no way to fix that. So that's when the NSP decided, this is way back in the beginning, that they had to add a little bit of the milk protein in to allow it to mix. And so that allows you to mix it into a shaker bottle really easily, but you can also put it in a blender, or you can also stir it up with a spoon. So you have a lot of flexibility with the way it was created. And that's what they wanted, was a lot of flexibility. And then as far as flavors, they don't go off the charts on flavors, because when you start getting off the charts on flavors, you start adding in more additives and things that aren't going to help to make it taste good. So the standard flavors is vanilla, chocolate, and then the cherry almond, which is a unique flavor blend, which I kind of like that one more so than any of them. But that's up to the person. So you don't have cookies and cream and all this other garbagey type of stuff
Right.
put together, because again, you're getting it and it tastes sweet and all that, but you're adding stuff that's not helping you. So that's what you
Right.
want to kind of keep in mind.
Right.
And the bottom line is this is just a premium product. So, when you're buying protein powder and you want to get quality results and absorption, that's what you're doing here. And the other thing is whey protein, it's been going up in price. And so actually the way we're doing it with our structure, it's pretty competitive now with the high quality whey protein.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what people kind of need to, keep in mind, because in my opinion, you get a better value for the money based
Right.
on me trying all these other protein powders, and how this one really fills me up when I use it. Anyway, it's kind of a long story there, but there we go.
Well, you and I have talked a lot about milk and egg protein in other shows
Yeah.
from NSP, but one thing that our audience may not know, NSP, they do sell a whey protein, right, Arman?
Yeah, we have whey. Some people, because of what's in the media and because what other experts promote, they think whey is all that. It does have a higher amount of leucine in it, so that's what they're stating, and it absorbs pretty quickly. I get that, but at the same time, uh, it needs to be a quality whey product. Okay,
Right,
so
right.
what we have in NSP is what we consider to be a high quality whey product, and that's why it's actually about the same price as the protein powder, the milk and egg. So, but we do have it, and again, these are basic flavors. We don't like getting into the other flavors that have the additives in it, so they're pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
But people are going to buy it, so we figured if they're going to buy it, then we have it. We don't sell a ton of that. We basically sell more of the milk and egg protein because people really like that. But if somebody's hell bent on using whey, it's a quality whey product you can use. Again, it's more of a preference thing, but we have it there for convenience. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up here, any final thoughts on either whey protein or NSP's protein?
well, I think the key takeaway here is you get what you pay for. And so don't
Yep.
go buying cheap protein powder. And people do this all the time. And again, what we're seeing in some of these different reports is they're doing amino acid spiking, where they're putting in extra amino acids to pump up how much protein you get per gram, or per serving. And that's really, if that's happening, it's not good, because you're not getting what you want from the product. So they
Mm-hmm.
hype the amount of protein you get per serving, and then they're just spiking it with these other amino acids from poor sources. So you're not really getting anything better except a message. So don't buy cheaper product. Do your homework on it, and then like with as many of them that's out there, if it starts affecting your stomach, then that's not the protein powder for you. So so I would always recommend you buy your protein powder in a smaller quantity to test the waters, especially if it's a whey product. My personal experience, because it can mess up your stomach, which happened to me.
Right.
A lot of different ones, not all of them, but a lot of different ones. So I think you need to take that into account. So if it's upsetting your stomach, that's not for you. Don't buy that anymore. And then let's see. Let me think what else. Oh, the other thing with whey product, it doesn't really fill you up very well. It's not very
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
satiating. So when I did whey protein drinks, within about an hour, it was just like I kind of got the shakes. I kind of feel like I need to eat something. So that was how it responded to me, and I didn't like that. So, but when I finally switched to the milk and egg, I never had any more of that. So it was satiating. I didn't have any jitteriness, and I was good for a couple hours. So that just, to me, it was a good sign that okay, this settles well in my stomach. It must be absorbing well. But most of that has to do with how the casein is a slower burning and digesting protein. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing to there. And then finally, just make sure that you read the damn ingredients. I mean, if it's got more ingredients than it needs, then just go ahead and put it back on the shelf.
Yeah.
It should
Yeah.
have minimal 3 to 5 ingredients. I mean, if it's got more than that, you ask yourself, well, is this for me, or is it for the manufacturer? So
Right.
that so that's my viewpoint on it.
No, it's a lot of great information, Armin. And, we got to be conscientious on what we're going to ingest and put in our bodies
Yeah,
because, there's just, there are products out there, just like processed food, processed protein
Yeah.
powders, processed anything
Yeah.
isn't good for you like that. So awesome information, Arman. Thanks.
All right. No problem.
All right. Stand by for a quick word from NSP Nutrition. Arman and I will be right back.
Hey, and welcome back to the NSP Nutrition Show. I'm Arman Eckelbarger.
Hey, I'm Frank Mills, and I know you just heard a quick word from NSP Nutrition, but just a quick shout out. It's Outdoor Recreational Month, so check out the deals on nspnutrition.com, and go check out those protein powders that we just discussed. The extra milk and egg protein is tremendous. Armin, when we get fan questions, we get a lot of different questions, and some on shows that we've done. And I
Right.
guess
Yeah.
that's where we're going to start today with our fan questions. It's pretty interesting. We got an email from Wayne. Wayne's down in Miami Beach, Florida, so he's not too far from us. But Wayne was real curious. He said, when I first started getting into protein powders, sometimes I use it as a meal replacement or a supplement or a snack type thing. And he said, I actually watched one of your shows where you did different things with protein shakes. And I'm like, I was trying to remember that. But
Yeah.
didn't we talk about a show where like adding eggs or adding different things that you wanted to the NSP protein powder? I'm trying to remember. Do you remember this?
Well, I remember some of it. The bottom line is, if you're going to add anything to your protein powder, what's your strategy behind adding it? So, one of them which came from Vince, anyways, was to add eggs to the
Yeah.
powder, the raw eggs, and either blend that up or stir it up, because what happens is it adds to the protein powder, and you use half and half or heavy cream as part of that because it will fill you up. It gives you a ton of protein and a ton of fat, and so when you have these combinations, it'll last you 3 or 4 hours. You're going to feel
Yeah.
full. So that was kind of the strategy behind that particular. Now, the other one you can use, which I've done, you can use almond milk to have a little bit of flavor and a little bit of consistency, to kind of give it a little bit of thickness. And then you put it in a shaker bottle and shake it up, and that'll work because you have as we mentioned before, the 8% of the digestive stuff included. So that's another strategy. Then if you want to add some fat into it, you can add some heavy cream or some half and half, again, a small amount, and or some MCT oil. So like sometimes I'll do almond milk with the protein with the 92% egg, and then I'll throw in some MCT oil to give you some additional fat. Now, if you use MCT oil, you got to be kind of careful of that because it can irritate your stomach until you get used to it because it is a saturated fat. So you want to kind of start that a little bit at a time and get used to it before you just put a whole tablespoon in there, so to speak. But it is going to give you good sustainable energy and help with the digestion because it's going to initiate the bile salts to kick up to help with the digestion of the protein. So that's another one. I'm not a big fan of, you can add fruit. Vince would throw a banana in there depending on, if you just got the training, then putting a banana in there would, give you a little bit of insulin spike to help push the nutrients into the cells. Nothing wrong with that. But it just depends on what your goal is. If you're trying to lean out, then that probably wouldn't be the best way to go because you want to just keep protein and fat going. So you're burning fat all the time. So when it comes to adding things, you have to kind of keep that in mind. Now, I know there's a lot of people want to add peanut butter to it, and I don't recommend that. Some people will frown on it. They don't think it's a big deal. I just don't like peanut butter or peanuts because of what I've read and then what I've seen happen with people that if you consume too much of it, it starts causing some joint issues. And it's a low protein. People think it's a quality protein. They think I'm adding more protein. It's worse than soy protein. So you're not really doing anything. You get a little bit of fat and a little bit of fiber, but that's all you're getting from adding the peanut butter. So, and I think people just it doesn't really sink in half the time because other people do it. So you want to go almond butter if you really want to add something in there to give it some more texture and some thickness would be my recommendation. And then outside of that, if you're going to be adding a lot of fruit, then again, just understand that when you add the fruit in, it's going to jack up your insulin. So you're going to shut off the fat burning until the insulin drops back down. So
Hmm.
that's another thing to keep in mind when you're going to make your protein powder as well. So I don't know, you think there's anything else I should cover on that?
Well, my thought as you were talking about all these different options and
Yeah.
things is, you know, all this kind of got created by like the juicing craze, right? Uh, and I remember going back to Jack LaLanne, right? He would do that stuff, remember? He would throw celery and all these different things in there. And I think that a lot of people, when they go to make their protein shake, they start thinking of, well, what else extra can I put in there to really do even more, like kale or things like that? And
Yeah.
I'm not really sure if that's the direction that you and I are thinking, but I
Well,
think
that's more of a meal replacement type of strategy is what's going on there. Now, also keep in mind in the beginning, a lot of these protein powders did not mix well, so you had to put them in a blender to even get them to mix properly because they would stick to the
hmm
sides all the time until they found out better ways to make it so it wouldn't stick. So that was another problem. So when you put it in a blender, you had to make sure you put it down the center versus like if you put the powder in first and then pour the
right,
fluid on
right.
top, it's just going to stick down there. So there's probably a lot of moving parts to this whole process. But from what I've seen now, you just keep it simple. And then, if you want to add some stuff, understand why you're adding it. But, if you're going to do a meal replacement, that's one thing. If it were me and I'm going to do for meal replacement, I would just do the raw eggs, maybe
Right,
six raw eggs. You can do 12, but that'll
right.
last. You just sip that throughout the day was what Vince recommended.
Okay. The other interesting, the other interesting thing that Wayne added is he had a friend of his tell him that when he adds eggs, just add the egg shell and all,
Yeah,
because there's nutrients
that
in the eggshell.
well,
Is
that
that?
actually came from a pro wrestler that did it on a show one time. He put the eggshells and all that in there, and he drank it. I mean, but I don't, the eggshell is really hard to break down, so I don't recommend that to anybody. And I think it would cause more problems than anything else. So I don't see that being ideal. And I think that's bad advice. But
Yeah. Ugh.
it's just like when Rocky put the eggs, cracked it open and put them in a
Right.
glass and drank them straight down. Yeah, you can do that too. But how effective is that? So, and
Right. Right.
I mean, it can still work. Don't get me wrong. It's just that's a little more dramatic than it needs to be.
Absolutely. Well, you know, one of the ways I enjoy actually the NSP milk and egg protein powder is, yeah, I'll do a little of that almond milk, but I put crushed ice in
Yeah,
there, and you could have like a little frozen treat, so I do enjoy that quite a bit. So just there's
well,
a lot of different things that you can
yeah.
do
There's
to
one
change
other
it up.
that I've done before, and even Vince recommended. So you can take the protein powder and put it with heavy cream,
Hmm.
and you just stir it around, and it'll actually make a pudding, and then you just eat it as a pudding. Is another way, and again, you get the quality fat in there and additional protein from the cream. But yeah, because cream's thick, and so as you put the powder in, it's going to thicken it up. And a lot of guys like to do that because it's a nice little treat,
Right.
later today. So yeah,
I think it's good stuff, Armin. I mean, it was a great question from Wayne. Thank you very much,
yeah,
Wayne.
appreciate that, Wayne.
Yeah. Look, you can make an impact in the show just like Wayne did, and just like many others before him have done.
Right.
Any info that you have, questions, topics, anything that you can offer, please go ahead and get that to us. You can either use the QR codes on the screen. You can comment directly on YouTube for any episode that you want, and we'll review that and add the content probably in the next episode because we're always looking for good content.
Yep.
Or you
Mm-hmm.
can email directly to support@nspnutrition.com. And, Armin, a lot of this great content, a lot of people can view on the YouTube comments. It's public, everybody
Yeah.
can see it.
Yep. And just don't eat the eggshells.
Yeah, no eggshells. Oh my gosh. Well, hey, you never know. You got to answer those questions. So,
Yep.
again, everybody, thanks for joining us. Arman, thanks for another great show. And join Arman and I next week for a brand new episode of the NSP Nutrition Show.
Hey, thanks for checking out the NSP Show. Go to nspnutrition.com where you can find a whole heap of resources to help you achieve stunning definition and eye-popping levels of muscularity. Don't forget, you can save 10% on your first order by using the code NSP Show at the checkout. Catch you next time.